All right, everybody, we got Kathia who's going to be joining us next in just a second. Kathia, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to co-host. So in just a moment, um, you should be able to jump in here. Actually, I think let me just double check that. Yeah, you should be able to share your. There you are. Hey,
Great.
Kathia, how's it going?
Hi. Great. How is everyone today?
Doing really good. Yeah, it's a good day up here in the Pacific Northwest. We got some sunshine, which is really, really nice, and enjoying that for sure. And yeah, it's been a great start to the day. So
Awesome. Great.
yeah,
Well, I enjoyed that sip talk. I'm really into sips in general, so that was cool.
yep, yeah, definitely agreed. Same here. So really excited about it. Well, I'm excited about your presentation as well, and I won't take any more of your time. So I'm gonna jump off screen and let you just go for it.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to first just share a quick video if I can. Wow, there's so many options here to share. Hmm. Okay, let me put this on my presentation first. Okay. Um, Here we go. If I full screen this. All right. Okay, do you guys have the full screen visible? Yes, looks good. Great. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead with this because I don't know how to put the video in. I thought it was gonna be a little simpler, but that's okay. I got lots to present, so kind of doesn't matter. Okay, so off the grid communities, this is our presentation. I say our, I'll introduce myself and my partner. Okay, so our mission is to offer opportunities to live off grid in community in beautiful locations, beautiful wilderness locations. I'm located in Ontario, Canada, and so there's one community that there's an opportunity with one community right now presently, and then I'll talk about also our future plans for other opportunities to join an off-grid community in Ontario and elsewhere. My partner here is Guillermo Aristizabal. So I don't know if I'm seeing exactly what you guys are seeing. Let me just try to adjust here. I'm gonna stop sharing screen just long enough to do it a little differently because I think if I share my whole screen, I'll be able to see exactly what you see. So how do I do that? Okay, I'm not finding share the whole screen. So okay, I'll go back to what I was doing. If you guys want to tell me what you can see, if you can see uh, the whole slide. Okay, you can see the whole slide. Good, I can see that much. Great. Sorry, I usually use a different video sharing software. Okay, so my partner in Off the Grid Communities and in life is Guillermo Aristizabal. He's a professional mechanical engineer and a drone pilot. And I mentioned also he's an unlicensed biohacker that just has some relevance to why we choose to do this off-grid stuff in wilderness areas. And then I'll introduce myself. My name is Kathia again. I have a master's of science in business analytics. Not so relevant to living off grid, but that's sort of, I've had jobs in big government, big unions, and I'm done. I want to go out to the woods. And so that's part of what this is about. I'm an experienced project manager. I can do the spreadsheets and the business planning, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also an unlicensed biohacker. And why is that relevant? For me particularly, because I had a lot of chronic conditions that really got in the way of my life and career. I had like extreme chronic pain. And every time I got back to nature and every time I took a step, like drinking spring water instead of whatever water's around, and drink and just eating better food, going on a paleo diet. Little by little, it just took back all the pain from my conditions until finally it's like, oh, I don't think I have those conditions anymore. Amazing. So that's also why I have a big passion for living outdoors, off grid as much as well, outdoors as often as possible in wilderness places. The more I get back to nature, the better things work for me. So this is also sort of a personal project of just living in a more primal way, getting back to nature.
That's getting on, but let me see.
And so this picture of me in this slide is of me with some giant puffball mushrooms, so foraging mushrooms in the forest. Okay, so why do we do this? We joined an off-grid community ourselves and we wanted to create new ones. We want to meet new people who are interested in living off-grid, and we want to learn from each other. Basically, all the people we meet along the way who are into learning about this, they have different skill sets. It's fun to kind of bring people together and say, what do you do? Okay, you can do that. Great. So let's learn from each other. We meet people who already know how to hunt. So that's good because we're just at the beginning of that journey. I learned how to fish. It's great. I really enjoy the journey of learning how to live outdoors more. And why off-grid? Many reasons, but one reason is that a network of autonomous decentralized communities is anti-fragile, like the book of that title, Antifragile, with a specific definition of meaning like something is anti-fragile if it can take a hit and when it comes back stronger. That's what we want to see. And so similarly, if we're all living in a community, but we all have our own power, so maybe we have solar panels or somebody has a gas generator or just different setups, we aren't all susceptible to the same hits at the same time, which means we don't all go down at the same time. Some people go down from one type of hit and other people go down from another hit. And so, for example, I drive an electric car, but I'm not interested in getting rid of gas cars yet. And so when each community and each member is self-sufficient, we're not as vulnerable to disruptions from relying on centralized utility systems outside our control. And I would say even centralized systems of all kinds, centralized medicine, centralized everything. And so we choose these communities in unorganized township. These are areas where there's no municipality. And that exists in Ontario. And from what I can tell, it also exists in parts of the United States. And in terms of other parts of Canada, it's not so clear to me. I've done most of my research in Ontario, Canada. It's possible this also exists in British Columbia or elsewhere in Canada. Not really sure. But what this allows us to do is we don't have to apply for building permits. So we can explore different building types that are not permitted in many municipalities, for example, tiny houses. And so, for example, the difference between Northern Ontario, where there is unorganized township, we can do this without a permit. We just have to adhere to Ontario Building Code, which is not a problem. For most places, we can do this without a permit. In Southern Ontario, I'm not saying you can't do it. There are some rules that came through from the provincial government that changed things and put pressure on municipalities to allow more for tiny homes, but there's still hoops to jump through. And actually, when you hear from the builders in this area, they can speak more to that and they're usually pretty knowledgeable too. So I'm not saying you can't have a tiny home in Southern Ontario. And why communities? The advantages of working in community, well, it offers greater affordability of land. We can see collaborative projects emerge, and we encourage these on a voluntary basis. So the community I'm going to talk about today and the ones that we envision in the future, some people have asked us, is this an intentional community? I end up saying yes and no to that. Intentional in the sense that, yeah, we all want to live off grid. We all really want to live in harmony with nature. So we have certain intentions that are aligned, but no, in the sense that a lot of times the intentional communities have things like, well, you have to work this many hours this week. And we don't do that. We have collaborative projects, but you join those additionally at on a voluntary basis, your choice. So one of those additional voluntary projects that's forming is the communal farming in this community. And that was part of the intention from the start to allow for that. In terms of communal ownership models of the land, well, there are different ownership structures that are possible. And the two most popular are the community may form a not-for-profit corporation, or the community may form a cooperative. and we've chosen a not-for-profit corporation. We're likely to use that structure again in the future. And so this now, the specific example of the community that Guillermo and I are members of, it's called, the property is owned by our not-for-profit corporation called Swan Lake Association. When I say our not-for-profit corporation, I just want to be clear, Guillermo and I are members of the Swan Lake Association. So that's why I would call it our, but it is not owned by our company. We are not decision makers at Swan Lake Association other than being voting members. And so Off the Grid Communities, its relationship with Swan Lake Association right now is just, we're a group that will help people get on board. That will teach you, like, we'll show you the process. We will show you the bylaws if you come up for a site visit. We usually have presentations like this one where we show pictures and videos first, so that people can know before if they're from Toronto, before they take a 7-hour drive north to take a look at their property in person. And so then we outline the details. Like, so when you join the association, you become co-owner of the entire property. And then members also have 1 or more half-acre sites which are leased to them in the form of a land lease. And that lease comes from that association, Swan Lake Association. So basically, when you join, you're buying a lease agreement and a membership. And so you are both landlord collectively through that co-ownership, and renter individually through the land lease. And so this specific community, it's located in Northern Ontario, like I said, near Kirkland Lake, a 6.5-hour drive north of Toronto. So here's the map. If the map was zoomed out a little bit more, you would see that the pin drop where this community is kind of halfway between Toronto and the tip of James Bay, which is the small little bay at the end of the Hudson Bay. So kind of between Toronto and the Arctic, which sounds extreme. However, if you also look to the west, that border between Canada and the US is still at a higher latitude than this community is. So for everybody living in Western Canada, they live actually at a higher latitude than this community. And anyone living in the United States right at the Canadian border, you're probably living further north than this community. So it can be extreme depending where you come from. It's not extreme for everyone. This is a picture of the property it's the old view from Google Earth. Google Earth updated its pictures. The reason you can see the property, especially the western border there, is because it was forested 15 to 20 years ago. And the entire property is surrounded by Crown land, which is basically land that's for the people, run by the government. It's similar to public lands in the United States. This is the updated image from Google Earth. So now you can see our community has kind of carved some spaces for some roads. And the roads that are more prominent in this image are the ones that are like more developed. You can drive a pickup truck on them. The ones that are a little more faint, they're actually just what we're calling mulch roads. They're just sort of a clearing, actually, for further development in the future. And some may be developed more than others, just based on the landscape and how many personal sites of members are in that vicinity. So just quickly, Crown land is kind of the equivalent of public lands in the United States. So it's basically places where a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident can go to enjoy recreational activities. It is managed in Ontario anyway by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And about 77% of the province of Ontario's landmass is made up of Crown land. And in Ontario, that land is wilderness land. It's typically forest, it's boreal forest. And then when you move to Northern Ontario, more than 95% of Northern Ontario is Crown land. It's just to give you an idea of the scope of the wilderness up there is unbelievable. It's forest, it's boreal forest, and it's very beautiful. And then they're just these are the recreational activities allowed on Crown land: camping, hunting, fishing, in accordance with the rules of the province. And so here are some pictures, some drone pictures. This is on our land. This is one of the main roads that is fairly well developed. But when I say well developed, everything is relative. I'm from the city. Usually a well-developed road in the city is not a gravel road, but this is a well-developed road and off-grid. Like, you can drive on this one. This is great. This is the Crown Land Road entering the property, because once again, I said the entire property is surrounded by Crown Land. This is a picture of a gravel road that's pretty well developed for off-grid, versus a mulched road. So when I said we had mulched roads, they're basically just clearings. So this is the continuation of that mulched road. It wasn't very clear in the previous picture, especially compared to a very well-defined gravel road. But this is sort of what it looks like. It's a clearing. So these roads within the land are developed to varying degrees still. So it's still a work in progress. So here again is a mulched road. So some areas you can't really drive a pickup truck to yet, but many areas you can. And just for people from the city who have some curiosity about this, like I drive an electric car, a city car. Most years they can't get into this property. So I usually don't drive up there, that electric car. My partner and I also have a converted cargo van. So we drive that up and we sleep in that. So these are just various pictures. The property, like I said, was forested 15 to 20 years ago, but generally they don't do clear cutting anymore. So that meant that the forestry company left some trees up. So you have areas where there are some trees, and then there's some smaller trees growing back and some low brush. And then other areas of the land, they didn't get harvested for trees. So there's sort of both different sort of setups for different sites and different parts of the land. So what's possible with this model? The property at Swan Lake, it's not like every single acre of it is covered in private sites. There are areas set aside for common use. When I look at our map of it internally, it looks like about a third of it is available still for common use. But actually, when you add it all up, given the roads and there's a buffer between each sites of about 10 feet, each site about 10 feet. And so then when you add all of that up, then it ends up being like 2/3 of it is common land. The total is 437 acres, the total size of that property. So anyway, the idea is there's a community forming for communal farming, or it's formed, I guess. It's planning on where that communal farming will take place. There already is a communal fire pit and socializing areas. There's a gravel pit, which is helpful for the road building. In the future, we're planning fire ponds, an archery range, and other uses that could be proposed and voted on by members. What grows on the land? We have wild blueberries. I put the exclamation mark on wild blueberries because it is the most abundant crop that we notice basically from mid-July until well into September. And then it just depends, sometimes into October, it depends. Wild raspberries and wild hazelnuts to a lesser degree. And you could also grow your own standard crops that are suitable for the growing season, like squash or potatoes, and you just get some manure from some local farmers. So here are some pictures of blueberries, the raspberries. This is my infographic. From what I can tell, this is the ratio of blueberries to raspberries on the property. We also found a natural spring on the property. There's just water bubbling up, and it is noticeably lower in temperature, even in the middle of the summer, than the surrounding area. So the community is working on getting the water tested, and then also putting in the right infrastructure to have like a pipe so that the water doesn't get contaminated by passing animals or anything else. Here's some more beautiful photos. So this is the lake that touches the property. This is Swan Lake, and it's very reedy. And the fishing on it, you typically get northern pike and walleye, or also called pickerel. And there's apparently trout. I haven't seen that yet, but people around there say they've caught trout. And this area, like you can see all this reedy area, the shoreline. So this is really good habitat for wild rice. And I've heard there's wild rice growing there. I don't know how to identify wild rice. I didn't grow up with that crop. I've grown lots of gardens. I haven't grown wild rice yet. So here are more beautiful photos of the land. This is a picture in the bottom. You can see Swan Lake, and at the top you see a lake in the distance. And that lake in the distance is within Crown Land. And there are no roads to it. So you could go fishing on that lake. You can just hike there on foot. There are trails there. You can take an ATV, but nobody drives there. So you can imagine the lakes up there are very naturally well stocked. More beautiful photos, blueberries. This is a picture of the property at Easter. It was about pictures. The pictures working. Oh, okay. Right. So this is at Easter. So there's still snow. And so basically the temperature was about 10 degrees Celsius, which I guess is in the 50s Fahrenheit ish. Not really good at that conversion. So the daytime temperature is well above freezing, but usually the winters up there, they get snowfall after snowfall and there's no respite. Usually there's a thaw, maybe briefly, but it doesn't melt the snow away completely. And so by Easter, there's still a meter of snow or 3 feet of snow that's just accumulated over the whole season. And so that's what we have here. Oh, good. Sorry, I wasn't at full screen before. So this is the river at the entrance. It has good fishing when the water's high and not much when the water's low. So the water was low that day, so I didn't catch anything. But this is the fishing on Swan Lake, not me. This is a member of the community who went ice fishing. I think it was last winter or 2 winters ago, I forget. So there are a few people who are already living there over the winter. Brave souls, because like I said, the community is still in development. And so he caught, these are 2 northern pike on top and a pickerel or a walleye on the bottom. That's the most common ones that we get. Utilities on site. So the idea is no electrical hookup to the grid ever. So that's another way it's an intentional community. That's written into the bylaws. That was decided from the start. You get a cell phone signal, which is available on most sites. But you know, if you were to come and visit us, you'd check before you put an offer on a site. Internet, Starlink works on the property. This is a communal structure or a set of communal structures, a couple of sheds and a comfort station. So the comfort station has 3 incineration toilets, 1 shower and 1 sink. The shower and sink are not yet operational just because we don't have our gray water solution in place yet. We're working with an environmental consulting firm to put together our gray water solution. But one of the things, again, with the bylaws and the rules in this community is we're not going to have any septic tanks. All the toilets must be on the entire property must be incineration toilets or composting toilets. And so that's the way we've eliminated the problem of black water. So now we're working on the challenge of gray water with this environmental engineering firm. So this particular project, our current project, if you wanted to join, once again, it involves the co-ownership of a 437 acre property with the lakefront, not necessarily your site having the lakefront, but you could come see what's available. But you'd have communal access to that lakefront, communal farming opportunity in the works, membership and land lease of a 1/2 acre site. So again, you're leasing it from the not-for-profit corporation, but basically you'd be buying that long-term land lease at about $15,000 Canadian asking price. That's a one-time payment. And then there's an annual membership fee from going forward from that, which is currently at $275 Canadian and is paid at to the association every winter. And so then once again, the way it works is we're not an authority within the community. We are members, Guillermo and I, that is. And we basically help current members who want to sell one of their sites. Often it's like they bought a bunch of them. They want to sell a few to raise money to buy a cabin or whatever they want to do. So we help them by promoting this opportunity. And then we walk you through the whole process. And what is this? We're available to answer questions. That was the current opportunity that is available. Upcoming projects. Okay, so we want to see another community form up there. And so the way we're looking at it, there's different options, but so in the same area, we want to offer the opportunity very soon, it's in planning stages, to join an off-grid community in Northern Ontario, enjoy the same co-ownership structure, but this time of a 20 acre property with a riverfront instead of a lakefront. and obtain a 1 hectare or 2.5 acre land lease site with your membership. And this time it would be about 5 or 6 people or families getting together for that co-ownership of the 20 acres, each of them getting a 2.5 acre site, and then the remainder, which would add up to about 15 out of the 20 acres, the remainder of 5 acres would be for communal use. And then within the same area, there's also the option with this future project to join an off-grid community with shared roads, enjoy private land ownership, i.e. you hold the title deed of the entire 20 acres. And on this one, we want to offer the opportunity for a turnkey solution, or closer to a turnkey solution, meaning like put a house on there, a natural swimming pool, which would double as a fire pond, permaculture and farming infrastructure, and cabins for rental or cash flow. So that is in the works. And then the future projects we also envision down the road. We keep getting asked if there are opportunities to do this in Southern Ontario. We're off the grid communities. It is very difficult to get permission to be off grid in Southern Ontario in a municipality. Not saying it's impossible, but it's not easy. And so if we did this number 1 here in future projects, tiny house community with communal permaculture farming on grid in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, we would do it kind of under a different brand. But we get a lot of questions about that. So we're very aware that people want to be closer maybe to some of the big cities in Southern Ontario. And in the future, we want to do a community in El Salvador in Central America. We're very excited to look into that. Guillermo is fluent in Spanish. I am learning my Spanish slowly but surely. So the next steps, if you were interested in this and any of this, anything that they shared today, I got 2 minutes left. Okay, I gotta hurry for questions. You can go to our website and sign up to our mail list, and underneath, in part of that sign up, it lets you get on the wait list for the type of project that interests you. So we're at offthegridcommunities.com. We have a land tour date tentatively set for the 3rd weekend in May. You can also reach us at hello@offthegridcommunities.com. We have meetups. There's a Toronto Sportsman Show happening tomorrow. We're going to go, but we're not part of it. If you wanted to go, you can get your tickets at torontosportsshow.ca, and there's a discount code MNRF. And we also run Biohackers Toronto. If you wanted to if you're into health and wellness issues like topics, biohackerstoronto.com. And we have a meetup for our off the grid communities, and that because we do in-person meetups all the time, because we want to grow this community of people who are into this topic. So I'm going to stop the screen share now. Okay. I don't know how much time. I guess I have 1 minute for questions. I see one question from Barb. Do people live there full-time now? Very few. Over the winter, that is. So about 5 maximum live there over the winter. No one plows the roads yet. So that's a challenge. So people who go in and out, they either have a snowmobile or they walk or use skis and snowshoes. Yeah, that was the other thing, is going into that property, it's not a 4-season road. And so that's an important detail. And so if you are interested to learn more, then we do go into the full details. I'm like out of time now, but I definitely walk you through those virtually first before you make the commitment to come and see it in person.
Hey, Kathia. Wow. Thank you so much for that presentation, kind of diving into all the ins and outs of your community and everything. It's obviously super important to kind of know those inner workings of it. And it's cool that you just like clearly spelled it out like that. So it's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on here today. And everybody go check out her information and courses that she's got on her website there. She just put them up there. Kathy, feel free to drop them into the chat too, so people can know where to follow along with you and what you're doing there. So, but yeah, everybody give Kathy some love. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kathia. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.